Let's talk about why this loss hurts more than like a typical round of 32 loss should. Why does it feel more painful, at least to me? Now we're also going to get into, is a round of 32 loss mediocre? Like, is that a mediocre season? Should we be happy for that? All that and more in today's Locked On Badgers. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome back to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. I'm your host, Ryan Aarings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Happy to be here, excited to be here for you. It's funny. So I'm going to end up editing this, but if you were here for the first part, it was just me talking silently into the screen because my microphone was muted. It's a phenomenal job, Ryan. Yeah, I want to talk about, so I was up till 2 or 3 a.m. last night with this game, and it really hurt. This was a gutting loss. This was a really painful loss. And I was trying to figure out, why is this so painful? This a round of 32 loss. And I think we all thought this team was not going to win a title. Like, this team was not going to go and win a title. Why was it so painful? Why did this loss hurt so much? And I think I broke it down into a few reasons for me. And again, I appreciate everybody being here. For me, the first one is, and Scary Alvarez kind of mentioned this, it was like a relationship that wasn't ready to end. He talked a little bit about, is this the most painful loss since like the 2020 Rose Bowl? And I was going back to my Rolodex. This is, to me, the most painful Badger loss in years, football or basketball. Like, I feel worse after this game than any game in recent history, football or basketball. And I was like, why? Why is this so painful this year for me? And I could be alone on that. I don't know. The first one is, every team, every roster, and maybe this is a weird analogy, is like a relationship. And I wasn't ready for this one to end. I wasn't ready for this season to end, for this roster to end, for this team to end. And it's partially because this team is filled with players that I really like. I really enjoy. And part of being a fan is you like rooting. Part of being a fan is you like rooting for players that you like. You like rooting for stories that you like. And I know people are going to listen. We're going to get into, is this a mediocre season, and should we be happy or content with it in a second? I promise you we're going to get there, because I can already see some people rolling their eyes and saying, great, you want happy stories, go root for your local 4-H softball club. We want wins. I get that. Trust me, I get that. But we were getting wins with the roster we liked. It was successful with the roster we liked. We have all had players on our teams, pro, college, whatever it is, that were kind of dirtbags, that were kind of bums, or just that didn't play hard or didn't care. This roster didn't have that. This roster had guys that, are becoming a bit of anomalies for college basketball, right? They have guys that, like Carter Gilmore, Kamari McGee, you're going to see less and less of those guys that stay with the program, don't transfer down to a lower level, don't whine and moan and complain about playing time, just get better. Players that bleed for the state, that represent the University of Wisconsin and this basketball program really well. Those were easy guys to root for while you're winning, right? Like, if you're losing, nobody cares. But while you're winning and you have that, it's this perfect mix of a roster and a team that's incredibly likable, plays hard, and is playing good, exciting ball. Tanjay, like, I wasn't going back to the relationship analogy. Tanjay was like a summer fling, man. Like, it was great, and I wasn't ready for it to end. And that's gone. It's gone too quickly. And it's sad as a fan to have a player that is that good and that dynamic and buys into the culture so quickly. Again, the word mercenary gets thrown around a lot for transfer guys. That's a very common nomenclature for transfer players. Mercenary, just another mercenary. Tanjay came in and bought in immediately. And I can tell you this for a fact, like 100%, he had opportunities to promote himself more. He had opportunities to put himself out there more, and he chose not to do it. Like, he chose to focus more on the team. He wasn't a self-promoter. He just came in, put the head down, bought into the Wisconsin culture. Coaches loved him. Fans loved him. Teammates loved him. You're not going to find a lot of transfer guys that do that. And I'm not blaming anybody else. Why would a one-year guy who is transferring to some degree for money and playing time buy into the culture and not promote himself? Tanjay's unique. He's an anomaly. He was so easy to root for. And on top of it, dropping an all-time performance. I mean, that 37 points against BYU with everything on the line, with everything riding on it, that's a Johnny Davis against Purdue type performance. That's his performance against Arizona earlier in the year. You're not going to get that very often. And I wasn't ready for that to end. I wasn't ready for that storyline to wrap up, and it's painful. Like it was a painful loss. And the other one is more personal to me. I was realizing this. My son is 10, and this is his first March Madness run. Like, he was really into it. I mean, he was really trying to get into BYU's heads. He was awesome. And when that comeback was happening, I wanted it so badly for him. Like, I wanted that moment for him. And, it was great to, like, share this incredible thing with my son, but it was sad how it ended. Like, he could have had just this all-time cementing sports memory to come back, and Tanji's his favorite player. And then after the game, he kind of realized, I told him, Tanji's not gonna be back next year, and he, like, really bummed him out. He's not old enough to really know the roster construction part of this yet. So for all those reasons, man, like, I wasn't ready for this to end. And it's painful. This one hurt. Like, this one hurt. I'll tell you, you listen to Greg Gard speak after the game. He said, maybe the most enjoyable year I've had in coaching in 35 years. You hear Matt LePay talk about it. Like, Matt LePay's been around forever. Badger football and basketball. Said one of the most enjoyable teams he's been around. Nick Osen said similar things. John McNamara said similar things. Like, this is just a unique collection of high character individuals that was more than the sum of its parts. And that made it incredibly enjoyable for me to watch. This is not the richest NIL program. I'm not breaking any secrets there, right? It's going to be hard to replace these pieces, and that's part of what made this year and this story so fun and enjoyable. And here's the next one. People aren't going to want to hear it, and then I'm going to get into the comments, I promise, because people can agree or disagree with me all they want. Again, my opinion is only my opinion. It doesn't make it the right one. I say that all the time, and I truly mean that. But the other part of this, that is just, call it an excuse, call it what you want. BYU, that's a tough draw. They get screwed on the seed. They were a really good 3 seed. And you can also say, listen, it's also fair to point out, if they beat Penn State, this isn't the seed they get, right? That's incredibly fair to point out. But after you lose to Penn State, you make that run in the Big Ten tournament, to get sent to Denver to play a Thursday, Saturday slate, to have to play basically a road game against BYU. That crowd was 80% BYU. They got screwed. BYU was a really, really, Torvak had them as the 4th best team in college basketball since, I think it was February 18th or whatever. That's a really tough draw. That's a really tough draw. And it shouldn't have come to that. You should just beat Penn State. Like, take care of what you can take care of. And you still got to beat who's in front of you. Like, no excuses there. But that was a really tough draw against a team that was really hot. And it wasn't really, I know people are going to say it's tired of the upsets or tired of the letdowns. That was a 1 point. That game was a 1 point line. Like, it was a coin toss game because BYU was really good, and that was an environment that favored them. For all those reasons, though, man, like, Tanjay, incredible year. Gonna miss the heck out of him. This team, I thought, was great and easy to root for. It sucks, and it's painful because I'm gonna get into it next, and this is where the next part of this conversation is going to come in. If you don't get past the round of 32 with a guy like Tanjay and a veteran team, when is it going to happen for Wisconsin? And that's a sombering thought, right? That's a sobering thought. So we're going to get into that next on Locked On Badgers. Your comments, plus, is the round of 32 losses, is this a mediocre year? Or are you just like me, where this is just a painful loss and you're not quite over it yet? We're going to get into that next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for friends of the show, and then your comments coming up. Today's episode brought to you by our good friends over at 5 Hour Energy. Listen, if you like me, maybe you didn't sleep great last night. Maybe you were chewing over that John Tanjay shot at the end. Maybe you just need a little pick-me-up today, because I'm going to do a couple shows. I got honeydew work. I got yard stuff to do. It is a busy day, and 5 Hour Energy is going to help me give me the boost to get me through this day. Plus, women's hockey national championship game today. That's something to be excited about. 5 Hour Energy is going to help me power through that game, plus a couple shows, plus some work I got to do. Right now, 5 Hour Energy, it's easy to use. It's refreshing. It's quick. It's simple. They have a bunch of different flavors. You can go over to their site and get 15 different flavors. That's 5hourenergy.com. Get 15 different flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, peach, mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. If you need one now, grab a 5 Hour Energy at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized over at 5hourenergy.com. Today's episode also brought to you by our great friends over at Game Time. Listen, nothing beats watching the game with your own eyeballs, your own retinas, in the stands, right? With the sticky floor covered in beer and nachos. Nothing beats that, being with your peeps, fans to the left of you, fans to the right of you, fans to the front of you, and fans to the back of you, cheering in unison as whatever team you're going for crushes it. There's a different type of excitement in the stands, in the arena, in the stadium, in the concert halls, wherever you're watching this thing. Go do it. Let's do more in life. You can make that happen over at Game Time. There's great ticket curation, makes it easier to find your tickets for concerts, theaters, comedies, whatever it is. It's easy, it's quick, it's cheap. Flash sales, last minute deals. You don't have to plan months in advance anymore with Game Time. Right now, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and head over. And you head over to that app. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's get into the overarching question here, because I just told you why I'm so bummed, why I'm going to miss this team. Let's get into the overarching question of, is this mediocre, right? Is a round of 32 loss mediocre? And I think at times we don't do, I just say we, the collective, we as society, a great job of trying to understand other viewpoints, right? So I've said it's not mediocre. I've said this is a successful season. But the other side of it's fair. And, I think the argument there, and I think this is a fair argument, and this is a tough one to answer. If you look at this year's Badger team, you have a second-team All-American. You have a bunch of fifth-year seniors. You have two young, kind of high upside guys in Blackwell and Winter. I think it's fair to ask, if this isn't the team that gets you past 32, how are you going to do it? Right? What is the team then? If you can't make it past the round of 32 with John Tonje dropping 37, with Blackwell, Winter, and then a cadre of fifth-year culture guys in Gilmore and McGee and Crowell, Klesmint, if that's the case, then, maybe that is the ceiling. I'm not saying it is or not, but I think that's a fair argument. And I want to acknowledge that. I think that's very fair. I'm not telling people they're wrong on that. I would say, to address that, I would say, well, Guard is the guy that found that second team All-American, right? Like, he's had really good success in the transfer portal, but it does make you wonder if this coaching staff and this program is capable of getting past the round of 32 when this roster they had this year didn't do it. Now, you're one shot away from doing it. So I do think people will focus as usual, which is what we all do in sports, which is what we do in life, by the way. And movies are the same. You focus on the ending more than the middle. Construction projects, you certainly focus on the end more than the middle. So in all the aspects of life, we focus on the ending a little bit more than the process and how the sausage is made. I think at times in sports, that last 40 minutes of basketball carries far, far too much weight. And it's probably the case in this one as well. In terms of mediocre, no, I don't think it's mediocre, right? I mean, if you just want to straight up take the definition of mediocrity, it's the quality of something that is not very good. That's from Britannica Dictionary. There's no way you can look at this team and say it wasn't very good. So I think when we start saying, if you're going to be happy with a round of 32 loss, you're happy with mediocrity. This isn't mediocrity. This isn't. Mediocrity is 18-18 and not making the tournament. Let's be intellectually honest with it. This season is not mediocre by almost any standard in college basketball. It's not. Now, maybe the argument is good versus very good, right? Like, maybe this was a good season, but people don't want to settle for good. They want very good. They want to hunt titles. They want to hunt championships. That's fair too, right? Just understand that if you want to chase that ceiling, you're probably going to also take the risk of a much lower floor, right? If you are a person that says, this ceiling's not good enough for me, and I think it's a fair argument to have. If you think Greg Gard has a capped ceiling, if you want to say that, I think that's a fair argument, and you want to move on, you're risking a much lower floor. And I think you can look at football. We chased the ceiling. I think the floor got lower. I don't know if that's arguable or not. I think you got a higher ceiling with Luke Fickell. I still believe that, but I think you dropped the floor a little bit. All right, let's get some comments. And let me go to the comments, at least after I was unmuted. Steven said, greatest takes I've heard from Ryan. That's probably when I was muted, I'm sure. Okay, let's come down here. Let's get some comments. Yeah, Matt says we fall off a cliff next year. It's possible. Now, I think if you're looking at it, you look at it and say, well, Gard successfully navigated the portal last year. Why couldn't he do it again next year? Again, I think Atonje is an anomaly. You're not going to find Atonje every year. You might not find Atonje every once a decade. But I think Guard has found good guys in the portal. I think Amos could be back next year. Kamari McGee, Klesmet were portal guys. Volt was a portal guy. He's had success there. So I think you got to feel confident that he can reload. And then you take a jump with Blackwell and Winter, and this team is better because of that. Realist says hard to wake up and realize they don't play games anymore. Joe Shalom says if Wisconsin hits a few free throws, they win. Is Guard to blame for that? It's a good point. Like, is Guard to blame for seniors taking a shot before half when they shouldn't have? Mikey says Guard is to blame for the criminal lack of changing his D versus BYU. I talked about it as well. Harry says for the team they had, it is 100% mediocre. Ryan says Ryan is avoiding the comments. Bro, chill out, Ryan. For a fellow Ryan, you're way too angry. Tyler said it's a timing issue. Ryan, Guard had this team clicking on all cylinders in January. They were 2-3 in their final 5 games. Collapsed against Michigan, couldn't defend against BYU. Underachieved. Yeah, I think the underachieve thing is interesting. Like, did they underachieve? They certainly didn't underachieve based on the expectations coming into the year, right? And then you lost Klesman in that stretch, but then down the stretch, you certainly can argue like the team was better, and then they didn't play up to their standard down the stretch. So overall, I think they overachieved based on what you expected from this year. But then you have that stretch where they lost to Penn State, they lost to Michigan, and then you give up 91 against BYU. That's inexcusable. Let's call spade a spade. Let's be intellectually honest on my end as well. You can't give up 91 in regulation. That's inexcusable. I mean, you scored 53 in the second half and lost. You scored 89 points and lost. I mean, Bo Ryan has just got to be, I know he loves great guard, and he probably loves that offense, but yeah, that part of it's inexcusable as well. Realist says this is the best team we've had since 14-15. Stinks we couldn't win one more game. Yeah, a lot of that is just where I'm at too. It's just sad. Like, it's sad we couldn't get a little further with this group of players. And sometimes in March, sometimes you just got to keep chopping wood. You got to keep having opportunities. You got to keep stacking opportunities. And eventually you're going to break through. I've made this point before. People used to say Bo Ryan couldn't win in March. Now, Greg Gard is not Bo Ryan. That's not the parallel I'm directly making. But Bo Ryan had a lot of flameouts in his first 10 years. A lot of second-round losses. People used to say Lute Olson, couldn't win in March. Right? He had a bunch in Arizona, really good teams that flamed out. And then he won a title. It clicked for him when he had Miles Simon and a few other guys there. So Mike Bibby was on that team. Random rabbit hole there. But my point is, like, sometimes it is just about you get enough opportunities and eventually you break through. People can buy that or not. Pedro says moving on from Guard would be very dumb. Like, I agree. I can understand the frustration of not making a run in March. But yeah, you don't move on from a coach who's winning at this clip and doing it without the most NIL. Oh, let's keep going here. Any other? Mark says preseason expectations or rankings don't matter. This team earned a top 12 ranking going into the tournament. Certainly should have made it past the first weekend. Yeah, that's an incredibly fair point, Mark. I don't disagree with that at all. I think as you play better, those expectations have to rise. I've said that a couple times, so I do agree with that. Like, now BYU is a tough seed. BYU is a tough draw. There's a reason why that line was 1.5. I don't think the Badgers got any breaks there. And I know there were some comments in there that Ryan was just making an excuse. It's not an excuse to call BYU a good team in a tough draw. If you think that's an excuse, then I don't think you saw what BYU did down the stretch. Michael says, no matter how far they fall off this cliff next year, Ryan will tell us it's a successful season at the end. I mean, I don't think you're really listening to me if that's the takeaway you got. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I will. I don't know. Let's keep going here. Any more comments that we got? Yeah, Mark says BYU's a tough draw. I'll agree with you 100%. I'll wrap it there. Again, I'm not trying to be snarky. Like, I am a positive guy. I do lean optimist. I do. And to the point where sometimes it's probably kind of annoying to people in grading. I grant that. I told the story in the Discord today. I was on a flight into Atlanta in bad weather, and we almost crashed. We hit the stall warning. People were screaming. We had to divert immediately. Like, we almost crashed. Like, Ryan almost died on a business trip into Atlanta. And they diverted. And I'm talking to the guy next to me who was like white knuckled. I think he's probably about to text his wife and say, honey, we made it. We're going to be alive. And I said, gosh, I hope they add these miles onto my rewards. this diversion. I hope I get those miles on my rewards. And he just looked at me. He's like, bro, we almost just died. Shut up. So I am a positive guy. Now, there's nothing positive about losing the round of 32. I agree. Michael says, such a fun team to watch, though. We will miss these players. And yeah, I'm going to miss a lot of these dudes. Just again, personally being invested into this team, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great roster to cheer for. And I'll sign off here and I'll wrap up here because I know I'm kind of starting to ramble, and that's not the point of this. Big picture, I don't think this is a mediocre season. I think this team was pretty good, got a tough draw. I do think guard has to eventually break through in March. I agree with all of that. But, like those them's are also the breaks sometimes in college basketball. Okay. On Wisconsin, go check out women's hockey tonight. I got that video or that picture up back here. Women's hockey going for a title tonight, playing Ohio State. Ohio State won last year. Wisconsin won 2 years ago. That team's a wagon. That team's a dynasty. On Wisconsin, a bunch more content coming up. Hopefully I won't be unmuted for much of it. We will talk later. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Whether you agree with me, disagree with me, whatever it is, I appreciate it. I appreciate the different perspectives. And like I said, I think it's a fair perspective to also look at this season and say, if you're not going to get past the round of 32 with this team, then when are you going to do it? I think that's fair as well. That's a completely fair point. Great one to end on here. Sebastian says, on Wisconsin. No matter what, on Wisconsin. Let's end there, and we will definitely talk later.